What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Josh. This is Native Nomads, and today I'm gonna sweat to death in my garage to answer a question that I get asked all the time, and it's, should I lift my Subaru Outback Wilderness? Now, if you're new here and this is your first time watching the video, I want to say thank you for stopping by. Please consider hitting the subscribe button, hitting the like button, hitting the share button, sharing it with your friends, doing all of that good stuff, and coming along for our journey, our adventure here on the channel. Note, recently I have launched a memberships program. So it's really hard. I stumble through this because I feel awkward talking to you about this. We are going to be kind of stepping back from doing all of the videos that we do because it is extremely cumbersome. And when I finally move to Tucson, which is in T-minus 7 days, I will be spending a lot more time outdoors doing the things that I enjoy. But there are people on the channel that would like to join us for exclusive members only stuff. And if you're interested in that, there's a join button around my stupid face. You can click that join button and you can come along and be a part of the memberships program. It's a great way for us to connect, me to do members-only videos, answer your questions, Q&A, trail runs, meetups, campouts, those types of things. And if you're not into that, there's also a super thanks button that if you could click that button and donate something to the channel. We are using all of this money to go on new adventures with our cameras, but to learn how to do this better because it's important for me to produce quality content so people enjoy it, not just get stagnant, sweating to death in your garage in Ohio. Now that that's out of the way, the sponsor of today's video is Adventure Rig Shop. Adventure Rig Shop is where you can get every single thing for your Subaru Outback Wilderness that you could possibly think of. The link is in the description. If you choose to purchase, please use code NOMADS to save yourself 5% at checkout. And I will leave all the stuff that we talk about today in the description. So I'm sorry you had to sit through that sales pitch. But that's how you make money on YouTube, I guess. And quite honestly, like the videos and views and ad revenue splitting with YouTube, you don't make much. So if we're going to take this serious now that we're approaching 15,000 subscribers, I have to do those things because I would really don't want to sell out to companies that I don't trust just to be able to pay my bills. Anyways, should you lift your Outback Wilderness? Well, before you even consider that, here are some things that I want to talk to you about, and I want you to ask yourself. And if you're not willing to ask yourself these questions honestly, then you're already behind the horse and you're probably going to lose the race. What have you done with your Subaru Outback Wilderness, and what do you plan to do? If you're a guy or girl who just cruises back roads, or you cruise Forest Service roads, you do easy trails in Moab even, the very short answer is absolutely under no circumstances do you need to lift your vehicle. You're losing a little bit of its aerodynamic ability. You are going to reduce your gas mileage, and regardless of a suspension, and it's not going to be factory, so it's never ever going to ride the same. Any vehicle that you put a suspension package on rides differently than it did stock. And that's because a lot more engineering was put into making that vehicle ride exactly the way it does. And there was much less engineering with each individual part and component going into fitting your Subaru Outback or another vehicle if you're lifting another vehicle. So the first question you have to ask yourself is, what do I plan to do and what do I do regularly? Another thing that I saw recently, and it was on a post from some company who builds Outback Wilderness. You guys may know who it is. They put like a 5-inch lift on an Outback Wilderness. And although that's cool, and I'm sure it was probably just for show, maybe they're selling them. I don't know. And maybe you know the company and maybe I'm being mean. I don't know. But when I see a Subaru Outback with a 5-inch lift, I ask myself, for what? It doesn't make sense because there's so many other components and so many other reasons that vehicle with a 5-inch lift is not going to be much more capable. You're going to do less damage to your underbody, probably. But if you're putting a 5-inch lift on a Subaru Outback Wilderness, then, that's great, but it's pointless. So I just would refrain from getting sucked into the hype. A video that I just did about the our GX 460 setup, how I built a very simple system that is inexpensive and efficient, is going to kind of translate over to here. And that's when I talked about the Overland Scam. If you have not seen that video, I'll put it up here. It still may help you decide on how to build out your electrical system and the things that you need. But don't get sucked into seeing things like that. And you see these lifted cars, and I know, and I've done it. I've put things on cars that I never use, and it was a complete waste of money. I bet if I did less of that, then I would probably not have to sit here and ask you to join my memberships. But let bygones be bygones. Here we are. So just be careful getting sucked into the hype on people's builds and the things that they do, because if you don't know how you're going to use the car or how you do use the car, then you're already kind of heading down the wrong path. So if you're not familiar with the channel, I have a lift on my Outback Wilderness. If I could do it again, would I do it? No, because I don't, because the car is only so capable. And I've taken this car some pretty rad places, done some pretty crazy trails in its complete stock form with just wheels and tires and some rock sliders. That's really all you need to do everything that this car is truly capable of doing. Anything beyond the things that in my opinion, anything beyond the things that I've already done is a risk. You're just going to break it. And it's not fun. Breaking your car on the trail is not fun if you're just trying to conquer something. So if I could do it over again, I would eliminate ever getting a lift, because the vehicle is already extremely capable straight from the factory. So if you're new to the Outback world, or you're new to off-roading or overlanding, and you settled on the Outback Wilderness because it's economical and it makes sense for your family, it's spacious, it's comfortable, good gas mileage, all of those things, then maybe you don't know the real reason for the limitations in your Subaru Outback or Subaru Outback Wilderness. And realistically, the limitations in this vehicle cannot be affected by a lift. So reason number one is your sway bars. The front sway bars in this vehicle, I disconnected mine at one point and I put them back on. The front and rear sway bars in this vehicle are really the biggest limiting factor in the Outback world, or in the Subaru world, because it only allows your wheels to articulate so much. You take the sway bars off, you get greater articulation. So if you're running with your sway bars on, which most people do, not many people take them off when they get to the trail, and you put a lift on your car, doesn't make it any more capable when you're already limited by how much your suspension can travel due to the fact that your sway bars are connected. And I don't think people want to disconnect their sway bars. I don't feel like doing it because I'm not using this car for that. You just need to know that this car is limited by other things. The second thing that has nothing to do with the lift but can be slightly impacted is your approach angle, your breakover angle, and your departure angle. And what that means is, it means your nose is your approach, the middle of your car is your breakover, where it breaks over, and the departure is how low, what degree you can take the rear of your vehicle before it starts scraping. Those things can only be slightly, sorry, I'm searching for words. They can only be slightly impacted by a lift. You lift it up 2 inches, you're not gaining a whole bunch of approach, departure, or breakover. So again, you're not gaining much by lifting it because you can only do so much with the vehicle with its current angle setup anyways. So another reason that I hear a lot and that some people will commonly say is, well, I just want to get bigger wheels and tires on. And for most vehicles, that's kind of true. Really, that only applies I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but Jeeps, you can fit pretty big tires on it just in its stock form. Tacomas and GX460s and 4Runners, you can go up slightly, but the lift is not what allows you to get bigger wheels and tires. Your wheel well itself is only so big. So the size of your tire is limited by the wheel well. Now, you may be able to go up and get more space between the wheel well and the top of the tire, but that's not what's limiting you anyways. What's limiting you is the front and back. Realistically, you can go one size bigger, but I have 245, 65, 17-inch tires. That's pretty much as big as you can go on a Subaru Outback. You can go up one more size if you absolutely think you need it, but Other than that, you're not getting any more. A lift is not giving you the ability to fit larger wheels and tires because you're not limited by the height of the tire. You're limited by the front and back, how much space you have in that wheel well. So putting a 5-inch lift or a 2-inch lift, it's not going to change the tire size that you can fit on your Outback Wilderness. So to keep this thing short, I guess I'm just going to answer your question. I should have done that at the beginning. And I think I kind of did. I don't think you need to lift your Outback Wilderness. I don't think it's a good idea for 99% of people. If you do want to put a lift on your Outback Wilderness, the link is in the description. You can purchase a lift, save 5% on it from Adventure Rig Shop. Have at it. I won't be upset a single bit if you do, because I've done it. But if I could do it again, you have to know what this vehicle is capable of. This vehicle is not a rock crawler. Additional lift is good. There are some guys who really push their Subarus well beyond the limit that a Subaru should be pushed, and I wouldn't recommend anybody goes and does that because, quite honestly, it's just not built for that. It's not made for that. You should get something different if that's what you're thinking about doing. But if you are kind of dead set on it, there are a few things that you should probably know. So if you're dead set on it, and there's no talking you out of it, which is fine. I could care less because it's not my money that I'm spending. It is the fact that you're going to have to make the decision between a spacer lift and a suspension lift. And there are definitely, everybody has their own opinions about this. I would personally never put a spacer lift on my vehicle. Some people will argue that to the death. That is fine. If I'm going to put a lift on my vehicle, I'm going to put new suspension on it. I'm not going to put an aluminum spacer between the top hats of my vehicle and the bottom or the top of my strut just to get that extra 2 inches of lift, because that is just kind of creating more stress than needs to be there on those components, and you're pushing that suspension down, pulling the body up. You're doing a bunch of weird stuff, and you know what? Somebody probably has more technical information than that, but I'm just telling you, I wouldn't do it. You do what you want to do. I just wouldn't. So if you're going to do it, then I would recommend Ironman. Ironman is probably the best kit you can get for your Outback Wilderness. That's what I have on mine. You can get a stiffer ride, you can get a softer ride, and it's super economical. I think it's like $1,400 versus other guys that are talking like $3,000, $4,000 for a suspension kit for your Outback Wilderness. Most people, a large majority, I would say 95% of people would never know the difference between a $4,000 suspension and a $1,500 suspension. Just because if you haven't been doing this for a long time, I wouldn't even probably know. Maybe a little bit softer in the corners, a little bit smoother of a ride, a little bit more floaty of a feel like you have in your factory suspension. That's where those upper end suspensions come in, is they just have that, they have more of a factory type of ride, which is desired by a lot of people. If you're looking for that more factory ride, Flat Out Suspension has a great suspension system, and that is in the description as well. Adventure Rig Shop also carries that, and those are really your only two options for suspension kits. So that's my take. If you think that I'm wrong, that's fine. Leave it in the comments. If you think I'm right, that's fine. Leave it in the comments. I just am giving you experience from somebody who has built vehicles well beyond their intended use, spent a lot of extra money, and if I could go back on a lot of things, I would, but I can't. So I'm kind of here just clearing the air and saying, hey, if you have an Outback Wilderness and you do not intend it to be a rock crawler, well, I got news for you. It can never be a rock crawler anyways, but if you just plan on using this car for moderate to light adventures, getting out in the backcountry and doing the things that you like to do, keep it stock. Don't mess with it. You will be happy. You won't have any warranty issues. You won't have to worry about or ask that question to some stranger on YouTube. If it voids your warranty, you need to talk to your dealer to get that accurate information. So that's my 2 cents, and I'll see you on the next one.